Are we live? Hello? Hello? Are we even live? Hello? Are we even live? We're live, we're live. Hey guys, how are you? Uh, how are you doing? Yeah, we're gonna start week 7, day 7 early today. We're studying early today, and we're gonna do chapter 16, chronic conditions, and chapter 17, lifespan populations. We're gonna go over all the terms. For chronic conditions, you mainly have hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and asthma as the main terms. And it builds, like, each of those terms builds up into more terms. So we're going to go over those five important terms: hypertension, diabetes, uh, from chronic diseases, hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and asthma. And then for lifespan populations, you have the conditions for the youth fitness. Then you have, like, for the youth fitness assessments, the senior fitness, the elements of senior fitness, also for pregnant clients, and adapted fitness for people with disabilities. Those for lifespan populations, mainly you focus on the youth, on the elderly population, on the pregnant population, and on the disabled population. Uh, so that's the focus for today. It's not as long as other chapters, but still there's a lot of information and a lot of terms that are important. So we're gonna go over it right now, and, like, we're going to attempt to perform as specific as possible, because this is at the end an important part of the final exam. So let's get started with chronic conditions. Uh, the chapter 9, sorry, model 9 notes chronic conditions. You have the learning objectives to name and define common chronic health conditions a personal training client may have, and explain exercise modifications that may be necessary for clients with certain chronic health conditions. So those are the two learning objectives. Name and define common chronic health conditions that a personal training client may have, and explain exercise modifications that may be necessary for clients with certain chronic health conditions. Chronic health conditions. So the chronic health conditions that we're gonna go look over is gonna be hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and asthma. For the terms for hypertension, you want to go over systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure is the maximum pressure the heart exerts while beating. The top number we're measuring the blood pressure, and the diastolic pressure is the amount of pressure in the arteries between beats. It's going to be the bottom number when measuring blood pressure. And hypertension, it has to do with systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure is when it is contracted. Diastolic pressure is when it is relaxed. Now, the risk factors and considerations. Then you also have to go over the risk factors and considerations for people with hypertension. Then you go over diabetes, where you're going to look at type 1 and type 2 diabetes and gestational diabetes. And then you have to look over the risk factors for type 2 diabetes, the risk factors for type 2 diabetes, and the considerations for diabetes. Then for arthritis, you have different types of arthritis. You're going to go over osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and gout. Osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and gout. Then you go over the risk factors and considerations for arthritis. Then you go over to heart disease, where you're going to go over different conditions like arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, coronary heart disease, heart attacks and strokes, cardiomyopathy, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease as conditions that have to do with heart disease, and also peripheral artery disease. Then you need to look over the risk factors for the risk factors for the coronary heart disease and considerations. And finally, for asthma, you're going to go over common triggers and risk factors for asthma and considerations for asthma. So asthma doesn't really have, like terms that build up for asthma. It's only asthma. So that's why you only look at the triggers and the considerations for asthma. So yeah, that's that. This is mainly a chapter where you have to focus on terms and try to learn as much as possible. So let's get it. So let's get it, bro. So chapter 16, chronic conditions. Name and define common chronic health conditions that a personal training client may have. And explain exercise modifications that may be necessary for clients with certain chronic health conditions. So that's a learning objective. You have to name and define common chronic health conditions that a personal training client may have, and explain exercise modifications that may be necessary for clients with certain chronic health conditions. Chronic health conditions, you have hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and asthma. The heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. So the heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. Now the exercise is going to be really important. You need to exercise is very important to be able to overcome those chronic health conditions, or at least to be able to cope with them. You have 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week. Getting 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week, or 75 minutes of or more of vigorous exercise per week, it can reverse some chronic health conditions. It can reverse some chronic conditions that we have. It can reverse some chronic conditions that we have. So it is important to get the doctor's clearance before we begin training. So the part of client assessment of doctor's clearance is very important for this chapter, because if you don't have doctor's clearance, you don't really know if you can safely train a client with a chronic health condition. So getting 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week, or 75 minutes of more of vigorous exercise intensity uh, per week, it can reverse some chronic conditions. It can reverse some chronic conditions that we have, but it's important to get doctor's clearance before we begin training. But it is important to get a doctor's clearance before we begin training. So hypertension is a chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 millimeters of mercury or above. That's going to be hypertension. It's going to be chronic high blood pressure, uh, chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 milligrams of uranium or above. Uh, of, of mercury, sorry, uranium, what the fuck? Hypertension is going to be chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury or above. Have to measure 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury or above for it to be hypertension. So the blood pressure is normal, pre-hypertension or hypertension. It's going to be systolic pressure versus diastolic pressure. For blood pressure that is normal, you're going to have a systolic pressure of less than 120 milligrams of mercury and diastolic pressure of less than 80 milligrams of mercury. Less than 120 milligrams of mercury is going to be systolic, and less than 80 milligrams of mercury is going to be diastolic for normal. For pre-hypertension is going to be from 120 to 139 of millimeters of mercury for the systolic, and 80 to 89 millimeters of mercury for the diastolic. And for hypertension, it's 140 milligrams of mercury or higher for the systolic, and 90 milligrams of mercury or higher for the diastolic. Those are going to be the readings. Normal is 120 to 40. Normal is 120 to 80 milligrams of mercury or less. 120 to 80 milligrams of mercury or less is going to be a normal. Uh, Normal blood pressure. Normal blood pressure. Pre-hypertension is going to go from 120 to 139 milligrams of mercury, and from 8 for systolic, and 80 to 89 milligrams of mercury for the diastolic is going to be higher than 120 to 80 milligrams of mercury, higher than that. And hypertension is going to be higher or equal to 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury. So some risk factors for individuals with hypertension. First of all, we're going to go over systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure is going to be the maximum pressure the heart exerts while beating. Is going to be the top number when measuring blood pressure. Diastolic pressure is going to be the amount of pressure in the arteries between beats. It's going to be the bottom number when measuring blood pressure. It's going to be the difference. Systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure the maximum pressure the heart exerts while beating. The top number when measuring blood pressure, and diastolic pressure is the amount of pressure in the arteries between beats. The bottom number when measuring blood pressure. And in here, I'm going to show you a picture because I'm a visual learner. Uh, is during contraction. Systolic is during contraction. Diastolic is during the relaxation of the heart. Systolic, you're contracting. Diastolic, you're relaxed. Systolic, you're contracting. That's why systolic is always going to be higher than diastolic, because systolic is when the heart is contracting. Diastolic is when the heart is relaxing. Systolic is every time you do the heartbeat, and diastolic is when it is relaxed. Systolic is when it is contracting, diastolic is when it is relaxing. SCDR. SCDR. Systolic is when it is contracting, diastolic is when it is relaxing. Relaxation phase. So now we're going to go over the risk factors for individuals with hypertension, some risk factors for individuals with hypertension, some risk factors for individuals who develop hypertension. So some risk factors with individuals for individuals who develop hypertension are going to be risk factors for individuals who develop hypertension is going to be obesity, diabetes, genetics, poor diet, high in salt or sodium, physical inactivity like a sedentary lifestyle, excessive alcohol consumption, and tobacco use. Those are going to be the 7 risk factors for individuals with hypertension who develop hypertension. Obesity, diabetes, genetics, poor diet that is high in salt or sodium, physical inactivity like a sedentary lifestyle, excessive alcohol consumption, and tobacco use. The risk factors for individuals who develop hypertension, obesity, diabetes, genetics, poor diets that are high in salt or sodium, physical inactivity, a sedentary lifestyle, excessive alcohol consumption, and tobacco use. Now, some considerations for hypertension are going to be controlled breathing, training intensity, warm up and cool down, healthful choices, and body position. Those are going to be the considerations for hypertension. So considerations for hypertension are going to be to control your breathing. The training intensity needs to be low to moderate. You need to use a rate of perceived exertion to make sure your client is not going above their limit. So controlled breathing, training intensity needs to be from low to moderate since the heartbeat can be dangerous. It can lead to heart attack. Controlled breathing, a training intensity that is low to moderate, you need to reduce the rate of perceived exertion. The body position, the body position, the warm up and the cool down needs to be good, and the health food choices. Health food choices, you need to make sure you eat very healthy if you have hypertension. The heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. So your heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. That's why you need to take it easy with clients that have chronic conditions, and you cannot make them more intense than they believe they are capable of. You need to go slow with them. That's why it's low to moderate intensity for consideration for hypertension. You need to have a controlled breathing. Training intensity needs to be low to moderate. Use the rate of perceived exertion, the body position, warm up and cool down, and the health food choices. Heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. The heart rate is not a great indicator for exercise intensity for individuals with chronic conditions because of medication. Now, diabetes is going to be the next chronic condition. You have type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and gestational diabetes. For type 1 diabetes, it's often autoimmune. Pancreas doesn't make enough insulin and results in high glucose levels. Type 1 diabetes, often autoimmune. It is you're genetically born with type 1 diabetes. It's often autoimmune. because the pancreas doesn't make enough insulin and results in high blood glucose levels. Often autoimmune, the pancreas doesn't make enough insulin and results in high blood glucose levels. High blood glucose levels. And type 2 diabetes is lifestyle related. Type 2 diabetes, you can develop it with an unhealthy lifestyle. Type 2 diabetes is lifestyle related where target cells don't respond to insulin. Lifestyle related where the target cells don't respond to insulin and result in high blood glucose levels. Results in high blood glucose levels. And then gestational diabetes developed during pregnancy in women who don't already have diabetes. Gestational diabetes is developed during pregnancy in women who don't already have diabetes. And finally, considerations for diabetes. You need to have doctor clearance, exercise, comorbidities, which is going to be the like exercise, you need to have a rate of perceived exertion that is low. Comorbidities, glucose monitoring, and hydration is very important. Let me see what is comorbidities. I forgot. The simultaneous presence of two or more diseases or medical conditions in a patient. Simultaneously present with another. So comorbidity is when you have two or more chronic health conditions, two or more diseases or medical conditions in a patient. That's gonna be comorbidities. So considerations for diabetes, you need to have doctor's clearance, you need to have exercise. Uh, in exercise, you need to have a rate of perceived exertion that has a low intensity. Comorbidities, you need to have glucose monitoring and hydration. Now, finally, you have in here hydration, exercise, comorbidities, glucose monitoring, and hydration, and doctor's clearance. Glucose monitoring and hydration. Now, arthritis is going to be wear and tear of the joints that causes tear down or inflammation of the joint. It's going to be arthritis. It's going to have a common arthritic conditions are going to be arthritis is going to be the wear and tear of the joint that causes tear down or inflammation of the joint. It's going to be arthritis. Wear and tear of the joints that causes tear down or inflammation of the joint. Now, common arthritic conditions are going to be osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and gout. Osteoarthritis is going to be natural wear and tear that degenerates joints and or cartilage. Age and overuse of specific joints can cause this as well. You have rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and gout. It has to do with the fingers. So for arthritis, where arthritis is going to be wear and tear of the joints that causes tear down or inflammation of the joints. So common arthritic conditions you have osteoarthritis, which is going to be the most common form of arthritis. Is going to be natural wear and tear that degenerates joints and or cartilage. Uh, Age and overuse of specific joints can cause this as well. Some people call it degenerative joint disease or wear and tear arthritis. It occurs more frequently in the hands, the hips, and the knees. The cartilage within a joint begins to break down and the underlying bones begins to change. The cartilage within a joint begins to break down and the underlying bone begins to change. It's going to be osteoarthritis. Then the next one is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. It's going to be an autoimmune inflammatory disease, which means your immune system attacks unhealthy cells in your body by mistake, causing inflammation in the affected parts of the body. Mainly attacks the joints, usually many joints at once. An autoimmune and inflammatory disease, which means that your immune system attacks unhealthy cells. Your immune system is going to attack healthy cells in your body by mistake, causing inflammation, which is painful swelling in the affected parts of the body. It attacks the joints, usually many joints at once. The body's immune system attacks antigens, including joints. It attacks internal organs as well. Osteoarthritis is going to be the most common form of arthritis, or anterior arthritis is more frequently in the hands, the hips, and the knees. The line begins to change. Then the next one is going to be fibromyalgia, which is going to be a chronic, long-lasting disorder that causes pain and stiffness throughout the body, as well as fatigue and trouble sleeping. Fibromyalgia causes fatigue and trouble sleeping. A disorder that causes pain and tiredness throughout the body, as well as fatigue and trouble sleeping. Scientists do not fully understand what causes it, but people with this disorder have a heightened sensitivity to pain by fatigue and altered sleep, memory, and mood. Fibromyalgia is often accompanied by fatigue and altered sleep, memory, and mood. Widespread muscle pain and tenderness are the most common symptoms. Medications, talk therapy, and stress reduction may help control the symptoms. This condition cannot be cured. It's only the fibromyalgia. Fatigue, sleep disturbances, cognitive problems, memory problems, headaches, dizziness, problems with vision, jaw pain, tender points, nausea, skin problems, urinary problems, dysmenorrhea in women, joint pain and morning stiffness, restless leg syndrome. From it's another symptoms of fibromyalgia. And finally, the good is going to be in the fingers mainly. It's a common form of inflammatory arthritis that is very painful. It usually affects one joint at a time. After the big toe joint, there are times when symptoms get worse, known as flares, and times where there are no symptoms, known as remission. Good is going to be high uric acid levels, acute good. So it normally affects the big toe. In intercranial symptoms that start to occur. So high uric acid levels, uric acid is building up in the blood and starting to form crystals around the joints. Acute good symptoms start to occur, causing pain, a painful good attack. Intercritical good, periods of remission between good attacks, and chronic good. Good pain is frequent, and tophi forms in the joints. It's gonna be good. You need to drink a glass of skim milk a day to control good. That's gonna be the good. In your big toe is the good. Fibromyalgia has to do with the whole body. Then rheumatoid arthritis, it has to do with like the joints. Osteoarthritis, the natural wear and tear generates joints. Age and already specific can causes as well. The most common one is gonna be osteoarthritis. Be the most common form of arthritis. The degenerative joint disease or wear and tear arthritis, more frequent in the hands, hips, and knees. Between the joint begins to break down and the underlying bone begins to change. And the rheumatoid arthritis is going to be an autoimmune inflammatory disease. The immune system attacks healthy cells in your body by mistake, causing inflammation, affects parts of the body. It attacks the joints, usually many joints at once. It's going to be rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and the good. So the risk factors for arthritis are going to be as well. Uh, the rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and the good. So the risk factors for arthritis are going to be age, weight, genetics. Risk factors are going to be age, body weight, genetics, joint overuse, repeated movement patterns, malnutrition, which is calcium deficiency. Those are going to be the 6 risk factors: the age, the body weight, genetics, the joint overuse, how much you use your joints, the repeated movement patterns, and malnutrition, which has to do with calcium deficiency, because remember that calcium is an important element that is able to produce cells in the bones. Calcium is very important for the bones. For bone health, you need to consume calcium. So risk factors are going to be age, weight, genetics, joint overuse, repeated movement patterns, and malnutrition, like calcium deficiency. Calcium deficiency has to do with malnutrition and risk factors of arthritis. Considerations for arthritis. For arthritis, don't medicate. Considerations for arthritis: do not medicate. Start uh, at a slow intensity. Don't medicate. Start at a low intensity and low impact. You need to focus in the time of the day that you exercise. Do not medicate. Start at low intensity and low impact. You need to focus on the time of day that you exercise. You need to focus on comorbidities if you have another condition. You need to modify when necessary, and the type of activity and what type of activity you're doing. If exercise is causing joint pain, the exercise should be immediately modified or stopped. If the exercise is causing joint pain, the exercise should be immediately modified or stopped. So considerations for arthritis: don't medicate. Start at a low intensity and low impact. You need to focus on the time of the day that you work out. Then you need to focus on comorbidities. You need to modify the exercise when necessary, and the type of activity that you're doing. And if the exercise is causing joint pain, that exercise should be immediately modified or stopped. If the exercise is causing joint pain, that exercise should be immediately modified or stopped. Or stopped. So, or stopped. So, do activities that place less stress on the joints. You need to perform activities that place you need to do activities that place less stress on the joints, and the main goal is going to be to progress the client as your condition lessens. Perform activities that place less stress on the joints. You need to do activities that place less stress on the joints, and the main goal is going to be to progress the client as your condition lessens. So you need to perform activities that place less stress on the joints, and the main goal is going to be to progress the client as your condition lessens. As your condition lessens. They perform activities that place less stress on the joints, that place less stress on the joints. And the goal, you could need to perform activities that do activities that place less stress on the joints. And the goal is going to be to progress the client as your condition lessens. Now, heart disease is going to be the leading cause of death internationally as heart attacks, strokes, coronary obstructive pulmonary disease, arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and coronary heart disease. Is going to be the heart disease. Is going to be the leading cause of death internationally. Heart disease is going to be a problem of your circulatory system. It's going to be the leading cause of death internationally, such as a heart attack, strokes, arrhythmia, and coronary heart disease. Also, uh, cardiomyopathy and and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy as common heart diseases. Arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy as common heart diseases. Peripheral artery disease. So common heart diseases are going to be arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and peripheral artery disease. Arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and peripheral artery disease are going to be common heart diseases. Arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and coronary heart disease. When training someone who has heart disease, do not medicate. You need to focus on the time of the day that you train. You need to be aware of comorbidities. You need to modify the exercise if necessary and when necessary, and you need to focus on the type of activity. You need to start slow. Uh, start at a low to moderate intensity. You need to start at a low to moderate intensity. Start at a low to moderate intensity. Start at a low to moderate intensity, and enhancing motivation so make exercise enjoyable. Start at a low to moderate intensity, and you need to enhancing the motivation so to make exercise enjoyable. Health coaching considerations are going to be to start low and then progress it to moderate intensity. Considerations to start low at low to moderate intensity. So uh, considerations is going to be to enhance motivation, to make the exercise enjoyable, and start low at a low to moderate intensity. You need to start at a low to moderate intensity. Considerations, you need to enhance motivation, you need to make the exercise enjoyable. So that makes exercise enjoyable. You need to health, you need to do health coaching, you need to do self-efficacy, and finally you need to do cardiac rehabilitation. Health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation. You need to know cardiac rehabilitation if necessary. Health coaching, self-efficacy, we have to do with the autonomy, uh, autonomy. Uh, the other one was relatedness and autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and cardiac rehabilitation, which is part of the self-determination theory. So you need to do health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation, some of the considerations. When training someone with a heart disease, don't medicate. You need to focus on the time of the day, the comorbidities, modify when needed, and the type of activity. Considerations is going to be to start at a low to moderate intensity, enhance motivation so to make exercise enjoyable. You need to do health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation. Health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation. And that's it for heart disease. But I want to see the common heart diseases, which are going to be arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, obstructive pulmonary disease, heart, heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmia. Arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and common heart diseases. Arrhythmia is going to be irregular heart beating with the rate or rhythm of your heartbeat. Arrhythmia is when the rate of the heartbeat is irregular. Improper beating of the heart, whether irregular, too fast, or too slow. Cardiac arrhythmia occurs when electrical impulses in the heart don't work properly. More than 3 million US cases per year. There may be no symptoms. Symptoms may include a sudden chest pain or fainting or dizziness. If needed, treatment includes antiarrhythmic drugs, medical procedures, implantable devices, and surgery. It's going to be for arrhythmia. The other one is going to be cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is going to be the disease of the heart muscle that makes it harder for the heart to pump blood to the rest of the body. Cardiomyopathy, a disease of the heart muscle that makes it harder for the heart to pump blood to the rest of the body because that pump is not as strong as in a normal heart. Cardiomyopathy can lead to heart failure. The main types of cardiomyopathy includes dilated hypertrophic and resistive cardiomyopathy. Also, the peripheral artery disease, also called peripheral arterial disease, is a common condition in which narrowed arteries reduce blood flow to the arms and the legs. Narrowed arteries reduce the blood flow to the arms and the legs. In a peripheral artery disease, the legs or arms, usually legs, don't receive enough blood flow to keep up these demands. So during peripheral artery disease, the legs or arms, usually the legs, don't receive enough blood flow to keep up with demand. They don't receive enough blood flow to keep up with demand. It's going to be poor circulation can cause leg pain for the peripheral artery disease. A common condition in which narrowed arteries reduce blood flow to the arms or the legs. So that was it for arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, and the peripheral artery disease. Arrhythmia is irregular heartbeat. Cardiomyopathy is when the heart cannot pump blood enough for the rest of the body. And peripheral artery disease is a common condition in which narrow arteries reduce blood flow to the arms. The narrowed arteries reduce blood flow to the arms and the legs. Now the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease group is cause airflow blockage and breathing related problems. So when the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is when is a disease that causes airflow blockage and breathing related problems. It causes airflow blockage and breathing related problems. For chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, it causes airflow blockage and breathing related problems. It includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis, makes breathing difficult for the 16 million Americans who have the disease. It includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis, a lung disease that blocks airflow and make it difficult to breathe for the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. A stroke, you know what a stroke is a brain attack. Something blocks blood supply to part of the brain, or when a blood vessel in the brain bursts, it's gonna be a stroke. Damage to the brain from interaction of its blood supply. It's a medical emergency. A stroke, and then you also have the heart attack. Heart attack is going to be blockage of blood flow to the heart, and then you have heart attack. Like I was thinking about it, and I'm like, dude, that is fucked up. From heart attack to heart attack. A heart attack is a medical emergency. Heart attack usually occurs when a blood blocks blood flow to the heart. Without blood, the tissue loses oxygen and dies. The tissue loses oxygen and dies. So that's heart attack. So those were some of the heart disease symptoms. The the leading cause of death internationally. So, as your condition lessens, that do activities that place less stress on the joints. The main goal is to prevent decline as your condition lessens. The heart attack. So, heart disease, leading cause of death internationally, such as heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmia, and coronary heart disease. Uh, did I do? No, I didn't do coronary heart disease. Coronary heart disease is going to be caused. It's a coronary artery disease mainly. Uh, Plaque buildup of the wall of the artery that supply blood to the heart. Damage or disease to the heart of the heart's major blood vessels of plaque. This causes coronary arteries to narrow, limiting blood flow to the heart. This condition can be cured. The arteries to narrow. The plaque buildup causes the inside of the arteries to narrow over time. This process is called osteoclerosis. The inside of the arteries to narrow over time. This process is called osteoclerosis. That supply blood to the heart. The plaque is made up of cholesterol deposits. The plaque buildup causes the inside of the arteries to narrow over time. This process is called osteoclerosis. This process is called osteoclerosis. So heart disease is the leading cause of death internationally, such as heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmia, or coronary artery disease. Also, the coronary obstructive pulmonary disease, arrhythmia, and cardiomyopathy are going to be the common heart diseases. Arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy as common heart diseases. Yeah, arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy as common heart diseases. Also, peripheral artery disease. Yeah, and arrhythmia. Irregular heartbeat. Peripheral artery disease is another one. So when treating someone who has a heart disease, you do not medicate. You focus on the time of the day. You be aware of comorbidities. Modify when, if necessary, when necessary. Then you focus on the type of activity. On the type of activity. And you focus on the type of activity. You have to start. You have to start at low to moderate intensity. You have to start at a low to moderate intensity. You have to start at a low to moderate intensity. And you have to enhance motivation, make exercise enjoyable, as considerations as considerations you have to enhance motivation, make exercise enjoyable. You need to do health coaching. You need to do health coaching, self-efficacy, and career rehabilitation. Enhance motivation. You need to make exercise enjoyable. You need to do health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation. The comorbidities, modify when needed, and type of activity. Considerations are going to be start at a low to moderate intensity, enhancing motivation, make exercise enjoyable. So make exercise enjoyable. You need to do health coaching, self-efficacy, and cardiac rehabilitation. Now, asthma. Find the last chronic health condition is asthma. Affects more than 300 million people worldwide. Asthma affects more than 300 million people worldwide. Asthma affects more than 300 million people worldwide. Common asthma triggers are going to be the environment, like tobacco smoke, dust mites, air pollution, pets, mold, infections like the flu. Considerations for asthma: you need to have a healthy body mass index. You need to have a healthy body mass index. You need to have you need to train in a clean environment and monitor during exercise. The rate of perceived exertion needs to be from 12 to 14. Then the warm up and the cool down are particularly important, are very important, and low to moderate intensity exercise as a consideration for asthma. So asthma affects more than 300 million people worldwide. Common triggers for asthma are going to be in the environment, the tobacco smoke, the dust miles, the tobacco smoke, the dust mites, the air pollution, the pets, mold, and infections like the flu. And considerations for asthma are going to be a healthy BMI, a healthy body mass index, a clean environment. You need to monitor during exercise. You need to have a rate of perceived exertion of 12 to 14. A warm up and a cool down are particularly important. And finally, a low to moderate intensity exercise. Low to moderate intensity exercise for people suffering with asthma. And that was it for chapter 16. Arrhythmia. Irregular heartbeat for arrhythmia. Now you go over the workbook. Now you have to go over the workbook, but first I wanted to see the rate of specific session as 12 to 14 is going to be uh the modified rate of specific session of 3 to 4, and it's a recovery and an aerobic like from 60 to 70% to 70 to 80%. So So, supplementation. Five nutritional limiting factors that may keep a client from seeing results are going to be the five nutritional limiting factors that may keep a client from seeing results, fitness results, are going to be limited added sugars, limiting unhealthy fats like saturated and trans fats, limiting sodium, limiting alcohol, and limiting carbonated drinks. The portion size recommendations for the following types of foods are going to be for protein dense foods, 2 pounds portion with each meal, vegetables, 2 feeds with each meal, carbohydrates, 2 handfuls with each meal, and fat dense foods, 2 entire tubs with most meals. And in here, for women, the protein dense foods, you have 1 pound portion with each meal, vegetables, 1 feed with each meal, carbohydrates, you have 1 cup handfuls with each meal, and for fat dense food, you have 1 entire tub with most meals. Uh, video. Chapter 15 is going to be supplementation. Chapter 15 is going to be supplementation. So define a dietary supplement. Supplementation. You have to define a dietary supplement. The National Institutes of Health The National Institutes of Health defines a dietary supplement as a product that contains one or more dietary guidelines. So, dietary supplement, the National Institutes of Health defines a dietary supplement as a product that contains one or more dietary ingredients and is intended to supplement a person's nutrition plan. A dietary ingredient is a vitamin, a mineral, a herb, a botanical or amino acid used to supplement a nutrition plan to increase total dietary intake of ingredients. This could be a concentrate, a metabolite, a constituent, an extract, or a combination of the preceding substances. Common supplements may be designated as performance supplements, nutritional supplements, ergogenic aids, and botanical supplements. Dietary supplement, and the National Institutes of Health defines a dietary supplement as a product that contains one or more dietary ingredients and is intended to supplement a person's nutrition plan. A dietary ingredient is a vitamin, a mineral, a herb, a botanical or amino acid used to supplement a nutrition plan to increase total dietary intake of ingredients. Dietary supplement. The National Institute of Health defines a dietary supplement as a product that contains one or more dietary ingredients as intended to supplement a person's nutrition plan. Dietary ingredient is a vitamin, mineral, herb, botanical, or amino acid that is used to supplement a nutrition plan to increase total dietary intake of ingredients. This could be a concentrate, a metabolite, a constituent, an extract, or a combination of the preceding substances. Common supplements may be designated as performance supplements. Common supplements may be designated as performance supplements, nutritional supplements, ergogenic aids, ergogenic aids, uh, and botanical supplements. Ergogenic aids are substances that enhance energy production. Ergogenic aids are substances that enhance energy production and provide the athletes with a competitive advantage. They're going to be nutritional, pharmacological, physiologic, or physiological aids that enhances exercise capacity. Some techniques such as carbo loading are safe and widely accepted. Others, such as the use of of anabolic androgenic steroids, are banned by governing bodies. The use of anabolic androgenic steroids are going to be banned by governing bodies. Now, what is the most common nutritional supplement? The most common nutritional supplement, the most common nutritional supplement, the most common nutritional supplement is going to be multivitamins, minerals, supplement or pills containing a combination of vitamins and minerals. That's going to be the most common nutritional supplement. It's going to be multivitamins, minerals. The most common nutritional supplement is going to be multivitamins, minerals. The most common nutritional supplement is going to be the multivitamins, minerals. Supplements or pills containing a combination of vitamins and minerals. Supplements or pills containing a combination of vitamins and minerals. It's going to be the multivitamins, minerals. The most common nutritional supplement is going to be multivitamins slash minerals, the supplements or pills containing a combination of vitamins and minerals. Supplements or pills containing a combination of vitamins and minerals. And finally, what is the scope of practice of the scope of supplements or pills? A combination of vitamins, minerals. And finally, what is the scope of practice for a personal trainer regarding supplementation? It's also the scope of practice for a personal trainer to recommend or prescribe dietary supplements to clients. Personal trainers and fitness professionals can help clients navigate misinformation and understand what they should look for to ensure that dietary supplements are safe, effective, of a superior quality, and free from contaminants, banned substances, or impurities. The most common nutritional supplement is going to be multivitamins, minerals, some supplements of or pills containing the combination of vitamins and minerals, and the scope of practice for a personal trainer regarding supplementation is going to be it is outside of the scope of practice for a personal trainer to recommend or prescribe dietary supplements to clients. Personal trainers and fitness professionals can help clients navigate misinformation and understand what they should look for to ensure that dietary supplements are safe, effective, of a superior quality, and free from contaminants, banned substances, or impurities. Banned substances, banned substances, or impurities. Yeah, there it is, bro. Chronic conditions. Chapter 16, chronic conditions. Define hypertension, chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury or above. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 3 adults in the United States has high blood pressure or hypertension. Hypertension increases the risk for the two uh, major leading causes of death in Americans, heart disease and stroke. It increases the risk for the two major leading causes of death for Americans, which are going to be heart disease and stroke. And stroke. Heart disease and stroke. Unfortunately, there are no signs or symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. There are no signs or symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. There are no signs nor symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. The only way to diagnose the condition is by regularly checking one's blood pressure. The only way to diagnose that condition is by checking regularly one's blood pressure. So the hypertension is going to be chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury or above. The Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 3 adults in the United States has high blood pressure or hypertension. Hypertension increases the risk for the two major leading causes of death in Americans. For the two major leading causes of death for Americans, which are going to be heart disease and stroke. Unfortunately, there are no signs or symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. The only way to diagnose the condition is by regularly checking one's blood pressure. The only way to diagnose the condition is by regularly checking one's blood pressure. The only way to diagnose the condition is going to be by regularly checking one's blood pressure. So the chronic high blood pressure measured 100. Hypertension is going to be chronic high blood pressure measuring 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury or above. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 3 adults in the United States has high blood pressure or hypertension. Hypertension increases the risk for the two major leading causes of death in Americans, which are going to be heart disease and stroke. Unfortunately, there are no signs or symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. There are no signs or symptoms to alert an individual to any problems. The only way to diagnose the condition is by regularly checking one's blood pressure. Now, name the three risk factors for hypertension. Name the three risk factors for hypertension. What are the three risk factors for hypertension? They're going to be obesity, poor diet, high in salt or sodium, and physical inactivity, a sedentary lifestyle. They're going to be the three risk factors for hypertension. Obesity, poor diet, like high in salt or sodium, or physical inactivity, a sedentary lifestyle. Diabetes and genetics. Diabetes and genetics, and excessive alcohol consumption and tobacco use is going to be the seven. Obesity, diabetes, genetics, poor diet, having seven, physical inactivity, excessive alcohol consumption, and tobacco use. So it's going to be the three risk factors of hypertension. It's going to be obesity, poor diet, high in salt or sodium, and physical inactivity, sedentary lifestyle. There's going to be obesity, poor diet, high in salt or sodium, and physical inactivity, sedentary lifestyle, then diabetes and genetics, excessive alcohol consumption, and tobacco use. Now, define type 2 diabetes, a long-term metabolic disorder that is characterized by high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and relative lack of insulin. It is more lifestyle related when the target cells don't respond to insulin, so it results in high blood glucose levels. Type 2 diabetes is a preventable condition caused by unhealthy lifestyle habits. A preventable condition caused by unhealthy habits. In this condition, cells do not respond normally to insulin, so the pancreas makes more to try and signal the cells to work. The pancreas cannot keep up with the demand and begins to shut down. This is known as insulin resistance. Now, type 1 diabetes is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little to no insulin, often autoimmune, where the pancreas doesn't make enough insulin and results in high blood glucose levels. Type 1 diabetes makes up just 5% of diagnosed cases of diabetes, while type 2 diabetes makes up the remaining 90 to 95%. So type 1 diabetes makes about 5% of diagnosed cases of diabetes, while type 2 diabetes makes 90 to 95%. Cases for diabetes. Cases of diabetes has more than tripled in the last 20 years, costing over 325 billion in medical expenses and lost work and wages. Autoimmune response in which the body attacks and destroys its own beta cells in the pancreas that makes insulin. Autoimmune response in which the body attacks and destroys its own beta cells in the pancreas that make insulin. Autoimmune response in which the body attacks and destroys its own beta cells in the pancreas that make insulin. Nutrition and that make insulin. Nutrition and lifestyle habits do not cause this condition, and individuals with type 1 need to take insulin shots or wear an insulin pump every day. Nutrition and lifestyle habits do not cause this condition, and individuals with type 1 need to take insulin shots or wear an insulin pump every day. Nutrition and lifestyle habits do not cause this condition, and individuals with the type 1 need to take insulin shots or wear an insulin pump every day. Nutrition and lifestyle habits do not cause this condition, and individuals with type 1 need to take insulin shots or wear an insulin pump every day. Every day. The three risk factors for type 2 diabetes. Three risk factors for type 2 diabetes are going to be being overweight and physical inactivity. Three risk factors for type 2 diabetes: being overweight and physical inactivity, family history and ethnicity, and age, more common after 45 years of age. The three risk factors for type 2 diabetes are going to be name three risk factors. Name three risk factors for type 2 diabetes. They're going to be being overweight. The three risk factors for type 2 diabetes are going to be being overweight and physical inactivity, family history and ethnicity, and finally, age, more common after 45 years old. Three risk factors for type 2 diabetes are going to be being overweight and physical inactivity, family history and ethnicity, and finally, being of age, more common after 45 years old. So being overweight and physical inactivity is going to be one of the risk factors, being overweight and physical inactivity. Family history and ethnicity, being overweight and physical inactivity, family history and ethnicity, and finally, age, more common after 45 years old. Three risk factors for type 2 diabetes: being overweight and physical inactivity, family history and ethnicity, and age. More common is going to be after 45 years old. So define arthritis. Arthritis is going to be inflammation of the joints. Comes in several forms and impacts the lives of over 50 million Americans. Arthritis is going to be inflammation of the joints, comes in several forms and impacts the lives of over 50 million Americans. Number expected to rise to almost 80 million to almost 80 million people by 2040. It's going to be the wear and tear of the joint that causes tear down or inflammation of the joint. Wear and tear of the joint that causes tear down and inflammation of the joint. Inflammation of one or more joints. Inflammation of one or more joints causing pain and stiffness that can worsen with age. Inflammation of one or more joints that causes pain, causing pain and stiffness that can worsen with age. Common arthritic conditions are osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and gout. Inflammation of the joint comes in several forms and impacts the lives of over 50 million Americans. The number is expected to rise to almost 80 million. Wear and tear of the joints. Wear and tear of the joint that causes tear down or inflammation of the joint. Inflammation of one or more joints causing pain and stiffness that can worsen with age. Common arthritic conditions are going to be uh, common arthritic conditions, common arthritic, common arthritic conditions, common arthritic conditions are going to be osteoarthritis. Common arthritic conditions are going to be common arthritic conditions are going to be osteo. Common arthritic conditions are going to be osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, uh, myalgia, and gout, and gout. Now, free risk factors for arthritis, free risk factors for arthritis and related conditions. Name free risk factors for arthritis and related conditions. Name free risk factors for arthritis and related conditions. Unrelated conditions, they are going to be age and joint overuse, older population are more at risk, body weight, chronically overweight or obese, genetics and malnutrition like calcium deficiency. There's going to be three risk factors for arthritis and related conditions going to be age and joint overuse, body weight and genetics, chronically overweight or obese, repeated more movement patterns and malnutrition. Genetics and malnutrition. Calcium deficiency, free risk factors for arthritis and related conditions are going to be age and joint overuse. Older population are more at risk. Uh, then the body weight is going to be chronically overweight or obese. And finally, genetics and malnutrition. Genetics and malnutrition. Calcium deficiency. Calcium deficiency. Age and joint overuse, like older population are more at risk. Body weight, chronically overweight or obese. And finally, genetics and malnutrition. In malnutrition, you have calcium deficiency for malnutrition. Now, describe program design considerations for a client with asthma, with arthritis. Describe program considerations for a client, program design considerations for a client with arthritis. Clients can rest assured that ISSA is safe and will be effective, helping to manage symptoms, reduce arthritis pain, and reduce them or prevent complications of comorbidities. To begin, a fitness training should conduct a true assessment. In addition to gathering objective data via the PARQ and questionnaires, subjective data can be controlled by doing physical assessments. The focus should be on the focus should be on functional muscle strength, and that focus should be on functional muscle strength and posture. That focus should be on functional muscle strength and posture. Uh, arthritis exercise programs arthritis exercise programs must arthritis exercise programs must focus on uh, range of motion, isometric strength, tension with no movements, isotonic strength, which is going to be tension with movements, tension with movement, and functional strength, tension doing specific activities. and functional strength, which is going to be tension doing specific activities. Just like anyone else. Greater emphasis on greater emphasis on a complete warm-up, along with greater emphasis on a complete warm-up along with extra caution used when progressing exercises uh, will be necessary. Along with extra caution when progressing exercises will be necessary. Clients can start with as little. Clients can start with as little as 5 or 10 minutes of physical activity, 2 or 3 times per day, uh, until they can reach the following recommendations: 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity, or 75 minutes of 5 minutes of vigorous intensity activity, or a combination of moderate and vigorous or a combination of moderate and vigorous intensity exercise. Uh, of moderate and vigorous intensity exercises, 1 minute of vigorous activity. 1 minute of vigorous activity is similar to 2 minutes vigorous intensity exercise. 1 minute of vigorous activity is similar to 2 minutes of moderate intensity activity. Include low impact exercises such as include 1 minute of so clients can start with as little as 5 to 10 minutes of physical activity 2 or 3 times per day, and can until they can reach the following recommendations: 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity activity, or a combination of moderate and vigorous intensity activity of moderate and vigorous intensity exercise, which is going to be 1 minute of vigorous activity is going to be similar to 2 minutes of moderate intensity activity. Uh, this is going to include this is going to include this is going to include low impact exercises. This is going to include low impact exercises such as brisk walking, cycling, swimming. Include low impact exercises such as brisk walking, uh, cycling, swimming, water aerobics, light gardening, group exercise classes, or aerobic dance classes. Include aerobic exercise, flexibility training, strength training, and balance training. The CDC suggests that following the SMART plan of action for clients with arthritis suggests the following SMART plan of action for clients with arthritis: start low and going slow. Modifying activity when the symptoms increase, but trying to stay active. Activities should be joint friendly. Recognize safe places and ways to be active, and talking to a health professional or certified exercise specialist. Now, free risk factors for coronary heart disease. The free risk factors for the coronary heart disease is going to be obesity and physical inactivity, high blood pressure, hypertension, and diabetes, and smoking and alcohol consumption. It's going to be three risk factors for coronary heart disease: obesity and physical inactivity, or a sedentary lifestyle, high blood pressure, hypertension, and diabetes. Another risk factors for coronary heart disease, which make it for comorbidities, and smoking and alcohol consumption. So three risk factors for coronary heart disease is going to be or coronary artery disease, let's just say, is going to be obesity and physical inactivity. Name three risk factors for coronary heart disease, CHD: obesity and physical inactivity, high blood pressure, hypertension, and diabetes, and finally, smoking and alcohol consumption. So name three common triggers for asthma, and name three risk factors for asthma. And finally, describe program considerations for a client with asthma. So three common triggers for asthma is going to be tobacco smoke, dust miles, and outdoor air pollution, which has to do with environmental. Then you have pets and mold in the physical environment that the individual is training in, and infections like the flu. So going to be the common triggers for clients with asthma. The three common triggers for clients with asthma: tobacco smoke, dust miles, and outdoor air pollution, which is going to be environmental, and pets and mold in the physical environment the individual is training in, and infections like the flu. Infections like the flu, like the flu. And name three risk factors for asthma. Three risk factors for asthma is going to be family history and sex. Three risk factors for asthma is going to be family history and sex, allergies and smoking, and finally obesity. Family history and sex, allergies and smoking, and obesity. That's going to be the risk factors for asthma. Family history and sex, allergies. Three risk factors for asthma is going to be family history and sex. Three risk factors for asthma is going to be family history and sex, allergies and smoking, uh, and finally obesity. Family history, three risk factors for asthma is going to be family history. Three risk factors for asthma are going to be three risk factors for asthma are going to be family history and sex, allergies and smoking, and finally obesity. And describe program design considerations for a client with asthma. When designing a training program for the client, the training environment should be free from allergens and pollutants that could trigger the client's asthma. Checking outdoor air quality before a training session should dictate whether a client will train outside on the track or inside on the treadmill. In cold outdoor environments, the client should wear a mask or scarf. Choosing sports with intermittent boost of activity such as tennis, volleyball, softball, or baseball is ideal. Clients should stay properly hydrated and allow for both a warm up and a cool down. Using a heart rate monitor is using a heart rate monitor is ideal. Using a heart rate monitor is ideal, but clients may also use the Borg RPE, Rate of Perceived Exertion Scale, to share perceived level of exertion. To share perceived level of exertion, 60% of VO2 max, 60% of VO2 max is about equal to 12 or 40 to 12 or 14 on the Borg scale. Throughout the exercise session, the personal trainer can ask clients to rate leg discomfort and difficulty breathing. Throughout the exercise session, the personal trainer can ask clients to rate leg discomfort and difficulty breathing. And difficulty breathing. And difficulty breathing. In some situations, when working with clients, leg discomfort and difficulty breathing. Throughout the exercise session, the personal trainer can ask clients to rate leg discomfort and difficulty breathing. In some situations when working with clients with chronic conditions, including clients with asthma, in some situations when working with clients with chronic health conditions, including clients with asthma, it is necessary to collect the action plan they created with their physician. The fitness trainer and relevant personnel should have copies of this document and know where to find the client medications and how to use them. In some situations when working with clients In some situations, when working with clients with chronic conditions, including clients with asthma, it is necessary to collect the action plan they created with their physician. The fitness trainer can, the fitness trainer and relevant personnel should have copies of this document and know where to find the client's medications and how to use them. Difficulty breathing. In some situations, when working with clients with chronic conditions, including clients with asthma, it is necessary to collect the action plan they created uh, they created with their physician. They created with their physician. They created with their physician. The fitness trainer, the fitness trainer and relevant the fitness trainer and relevant personnel, the fitness trainer The fitness trainer and relevant personnel should have copies of this document and know where to find the client's medications and how to use them. The fitness trainer can it is necessary to collect the action plan they created, the action plan they created with their physician, with their physician. The fitness trainer and relevant personnel should have copies of this document and know where to find the client's medications and how to use them. The fitness trainer and relevant personnel should have copies of this document and know where to find the client's medications and how to use them. Know where to find and know where to find the client's medications and how to use them. Where to find the client's medications and how to use them. The client's medications and how to use them. Period. So, three common triggers for asthma is going to be tobacco smoke, dust smells, and outdoor air pollution, pet small in the physical environment and the individual is training in and infections like the flu. Risk factors for asthma is going to be family history and sex, uh, allergies and smoking, and obesity. Family history and sex, uh, family history and sex, allergies and smoking, and obesity. And obesity. 36, allergies and smoking, and obesity. Lifespan populations is going to be the next one. Lifespan populations. Lifespan populations is going to be the next one. Low to moderate intensity activities. Low to moderate intensity activity. Low to moderate. Low to moderate intensity activity. Low to moderate intensity activity. Low to moderate intensity exercise. Example is Dude, why do I forget, man? No, no, no.
Bueno, yo voy a ir nomás. Ya tu papá dice que más tarde va a ir y vas con él, papi.
Diablos.
Voy a ir a la guay.
Ya,
Voy a ir un
¿qué?
solo carro.
No importa. Dios mío. No sé qué le pasa en mi memoria. Ay, qué bestia. Autoimmune or an inflammatory disease. Okay. After my break, I'm gonna go over the quiz, and then we start at chapter 17, lifespan populations. Yeah. Ah, yeah, because you had to apply in the freaking site. Ah, la verga. Este, ya vuelvo. Dale, que este. I really don't want to go over it again, bro. I just want to take the exam. For real. Right. I've decided that I don't really want to keep like repeating myself. It's annoying, and this is why I'm going to focus. Like I'm gonna trust my memory. You know, I'm going to trust my memory. It's part of brain function at the end. So yeah, so let's go. Oh, I'm moving around. Wow, what is going on? Oh my God. I don't want to go crazy with this, bro. Let's get it. I want to go crazy with this, bro. No, oh my God. I don't want. Sorry, bro. Sorry. Let's go. Oh, I'm moving around. Wow, what is going on? Oh my God. I don't want to go crazy with this. Okay, we're going to go over the equation here. Let's get it. Chronic conditions. Quiz 15. Chronic conditions. Chronic disease. A condition that lasts 1 year or more and requires ongoing medical attention, or limits activities of daily living, or both. Refers to many different health conditions. It refers to heart disease, diabetes, depression, arthritis, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, and dementia. And dementia. About 60% of adults in the US are living with at least one chronic health condition. 40% 40% of adults have two or more, which is the comorbidities, and 25% of children between the ages 2 and 8 have a chronic health condition. 25% of children between the ages 2 and 8 have a chronic health condition. It means there is 1 in 4 chance that your kid will have a chronic health condition. That is crazy. You will have clients living with chronic health conditions. You will have clients living with chronic health conditions. A healthy lifestyle with healthy eating patterns, exercise and stress management reduces the physical effects of many chronic conditions and may even prevent them. Be aware of special considerations. Example is that the client with a heart disease and high blood pressure needs to lower the normal intensity of workout. Most clients will know their limitations. Personal trainers need to be aware and prepared. Now, what is the minimum consistent blood pressure reading associated with the condition of hypertension? The minimum consistent blood pressure reading associated with the condition of hypertension is going to be 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury. What chronic disease was the DASH diet created to combat? The DASH diet was created to combat high blood pressure. Let me see what is the DASH diet in here. DASH diet was created to combat high blood pressure. It's to prevent and control hypertension. The DASH diet was created to combat high blood pressure or hypertension. The role of insulin in the human body, the role of insulin in the human body created by the pancreas to control the blood flow throughout the body is going to be insulin binds to target cells and promotes the uptake of glucose from the body, from the blood. The role of insulin in the human body is going to be insulin binds to target cells and promotes the uptake of glucose from the blood. Binds to target cells and promotes the uptake of glucose from the blood. Now, what condition is characterized by the degenerative joint disease that causes the wear and tear on the joints is going to be arthritis. The condition degenerative joint disease, a degenerative joint disease caused by a wear and tear of the joints is going to be osteoarthritis, the most common arthritic condition. A, a degenerative joint disease, that caused by the wear and tear of the joints. The degenerative joint disease caused by the wear and tear of the joints is going to be osteoarthritis. Which of the following exercises are recommended for a client with arthritis? Uh, Exercises recommended for a client with arthritis is going to be cycling, swimming, group exercise classes, and brisk walking. It's going to be exercises recommended for a client with arthritis. Cycling, swimming, group exercises, classes, and brisk walking. Definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy. The definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy is going to be the enlargement and stiffness of the heart. Cardiomyopathy is the enlargement and stiffness of the heart. Cardiomyopathy, the enlargement and stiffness of the heart. Cardiomyopathy is the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. What chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, smoke, and air pollution? Asthma. Oh, smoke and air pollution is going to be asthma. Asthma. What is the most common symptom of a coronary artery disease? Is going to be angina. Angina is going to be the most common symptom is going to be chest pain. Angina is going to be ischemic chest pain. It's going to be the most common symptom of coronary artery disease. Angina is a symptom of coronary artery disease. Common symptom of coronary artery disease is going to be angina. Angina. Common symptom of coronary artery disease is going to be angina. Then which of the following which of the following joints in the body are commonly affected by the condition of good? The lesser toe joint, the ankle, and the knee. The lesser toe joint, the ankle, and the knee are going to be the joints in the body that are commonly affected by the condition of good. And what arthritic condition is an autoimmune disorder? Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder. So the arthritic condition that is often an autoimmune disorder is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is going to be a condition that is an autoimmune disorder. Rheumatoid arthritis. It's going to be for chronic conditions. CDC, chronic diseases, a condition that lasts 1 year or more, requires ongoing medical attention or limits activity of daily living or both. Refers to many different health conditions: heart disease, diabetes, depression, arthritis, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, and dementia. About 50% of adults in the US are living with at least one chronic condition. 40% of adults have two or more comorbidity. 25% of children between ages 2 and 8 have a chronic health condition. You will have clients with chronic health conditions, with chronic health issues. A healthy lifestyle with healthy eating patterns, exercise, and stress management reduces the physical effects of many chronic conditions, and may even prevent them. The physical effects of many chronic conditions and may even prevent them. Beware and may even prevent them. Beware of special considerations. Beware aware be aware of special be aware of special considerations. Examples: client with heart disease and high blood pressure need to lower the normal intensity of a workout. Healthy lifestyle with a healthy eating patterns, exercise, and stress management reduces the physical effects. A healthy lifestyle with healthy eating patterns, uh, exercise, and stress management reduces the physical effects of many chronic conditions and may even prevent them. Beware of special considerations. Example, clients with heart disease and high blood pressure need to lower the normal intensity of a workout. Clients with heart disease and high blood pressure need to lower the normal intensity, need to lower, beware special considerations. Clients with heart disease and high blood pressure need to lower the normal intensity of a workout. Uh, no, most clients know their limitations, will know their limitations if a workout. Most clients will know their limitations. Personal trainers need to be aware and prepared. The minimum consistent blood pressure reading associated with a condition of hypertension is going to be 140 to 90 milligrams of mercury. What chronic disease was the DASH diet created to combat? High blood pressure. High blood pressure. What is the role of insulin in the human body? Insulin binds to target cells and promotes the uptake of glucose from the blood. Now, the condition characterized as a degenerative joint disease caused by the wear and tear on the joints. A degenerative joint disease caused by the wear and tear on the joints is going to be osteoarthritis. It's going to be OA, osteoarthritis. Which of the following exercises are recommended for a client with arthritis? The following exercises recommended for a client with arthritis are going to be cycling, swimming, group exercise classes, and brisk walking. Definition of a heart condition of cardiomyopathy. The definition of a heart condition of cardiomyopathy. The definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy is the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. Definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy is going to be the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. Now, what chronic health condition is the definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy is going to be the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. Now, which chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, stroke, and air pollution? Now, which chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, stroke, and air pollution? Which chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, stroke, and air pollution? Which chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, smoke, and air pollution? Definition of the heart condition of cardiomyopathy is going to be the enlargement and stiffening of the heart. Now, which chronic health condition can be caused by pollen, mold, smoke, and air pollution? It's going to be asthma. It's going to be asthma, asthma, asthma. Now, what is the most common symptom? It's going to be asthma. What is the most common symptom of coronary artery disease? Angina. The most common symptom of a coronary artery disease is going to be angina. The most common symptom of coronary artery disease is going to be angina. Which of the following joints in the body are commonly affected by the condition of gout? They are going to be the lesser toe joints, the ankle and the knee. The joints in the body are commonly affected by the condition of gout is going to be the lesser toe joints, the ankle, and the knee. It's going to be the lesser toe joints, the ankle and the knee. And finally, which arthritic with lesser toe joints, the ankle and the knee. And finally, which arthritic condition is an autoimmune disorder? Which arthritic condition is going to be an autoimmune disorder is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. An autoimmune disorder is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is going to be an autoimmune disorder. Angina is a chest pain caused by reduced blood flow in the heart. Angina. Which arthritic condition is an autoimmune disorder is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is going to be an autoimmune disorder. The arthritic condition that is an autoimmune disorder is going to be rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis. Lifespan population is going to be for week 16. I'm going to get started right now with that one. So lifespan populations. Low to moderate intensity activities and low to moderate intensity activities. Intensity exercise. Lifespan populations is going to be the learning objectives. Identify effective exercise methods for youth based on age and developmental stage. Describe effective elements of fitness for senior adults. Explain common fitness modifications for a pregnant client and define adaptive fitness and the ways a fitness professional can make fitness more accessible. So for lifespan populations chapter, you have health conditions and the youth, benefits of youth fitness, considerations for kids under 6 years old, which are going to be physiology, exercise, and psychology. For kids that are 6 to 10 years old, then for kids 11 to 19 years old, then the youth fitness assessments, You're gonna have some youth fitness assessments. Then you're gonna have senior fitness. Youth fitness assessments in the aerobic capacity area, the body composition area, flexibility area, muscular endurance and strength area for the youth fitness assessments. Now you're gonna have senior fitness, anyone who is 65 years of age and older. You're going to have a exercise improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality. Also mental well-being. You're gonna have elements of senior training, elements of fit, elements of senior fitness training, which is good cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility, balance, and mental training. The elements of senior fitness training. Contraindications during pregnancy, contraindications during pregnancy, you're going to have relative versus absolute contraindications during pregnancy. Then you're going to have adaptive fitness considerations. Adaptive fitness considerations. So you're going to focus on four learning objectives: the exercise methods for youth based on age and developmental stage, identify exercise methods, effective exercise methods for youth based on age and developmental stage, describe effective elements of fitness for senior adults. Then you're going to explain common fitness modifications for a pregnant client and describe adaptive fitness and the ways a fitness professional can make fitness more accessible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, I wanna go to the bathroom again. I don't, yeah, whatever. Let me see if God damn, bro. Yeah, Italia. Qué bueno. This is the game that I want to watch. Let me see. Is that like the pro? No, it's yeah, invisible phone. Yes, 657. Insane, bro. Especia versus el Averoni. Ya que no está en. eh, Ey, este men es gringo. Este men es gringo, ¿no? He's, he's from the US. Ah, no, ya me acordé. Sí, verdad. Yeah, el galés, el galés. Ese galés jugaba en el Chelsea, solo jugó un partido. Yeah, I remember this guy, dude. Exeter City. That team is from. Yeah, this player is. I was like Ethan and Padu. Yeah, I remember this guy, bro. Ooh, let's see, like, what is the lineups here? Okay, I'm gonna be right back. Okay. And then we're gonna start. I'm gonna finish it all. Okay, let's get started. I don't like how the battery dies so fast, dude. Okay. Chapter 17, Lifespan Populations. Learning Objectives. Identify effective exercise methods for youth based on age and developmental stage. Describe effective elements of fitness for senior adults. Now, explain common fitness modifications for a pregnant client and define adaptive fitness and the ways a fitness professional can make the fitness more accessible. A fitness professional can make fitness more accessible. Health considerations, health considerations and youth. Health considerations and youth. For health considerations and youth, you're going to have for health considerations and youth, you're going to have hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, osteoporosis, cancer, sleep apnea, mental disorders. Children are naturally active and physical activity for children is physical play. Children are naturally active and physical activity for children means physical play. There's going to be some health considerations in you. You're going to have hypertension, osteoporosis, high cholesterol, cancer, type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, heart disease, mental disorders, and stroke. Hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, osteoporosis, cancer, sleep apnea, and mental disorders. Children are naturally active, and physical activity for children means physical play. The benefits of youth fitness. There are some benefits of youth fitness: improved bone density, higher self-esteem, athletic performance, reduces excess body fat, uh, reduces the reduces disease reduce disease risk, and injury prevention. That's going to be some benefits of youth fitness. Some benefits of youth fitness is going to be improved bone density. Children are naturally active, and physical activity for children means physical play. Now, benefits of youth fitness are going to be improved bone density, self-esteem, athletic performance, reduce excess body fat, disease risk, reduce disease risk, and injury prevention. Now, some considerations for kids under 6 years old. You have for physiology, exercise, and psychology. Physiology is that there is rapid growth that is slowly there is rapid growth that is slows by the age of 2. So benefits of youth fitness is going to be benefits of youth fitness: improve bone density, self-esteem, athletic performance, reduce excess body fat, reduce disease risk, and injury prevention. Now, for kids under 6 years old, you have some considerations for kids. You have some considerations for kids under 6 years of age. For physiology, you have rapid growth that slows by the age of 2, accelerated motor development, and you are going to learn skills and movements easily. For physiology, rapid growth that slows by the age of 2, accelerated motor development, and skills and movements easily. You have accelerated motor development, and you can learn skills and movements easily. Rapid growth that is lost by the age of 2. You have accelerated motor development, and you can learn skills and movements easily. And you can learn skills and movements easily. And you can learn skills and movements easily. And movements easily. Now, for exercise, you have to use positive reinforcement. You have to focus on gross motor skills and controlled environment or free to play. For exercise, you have to use positive reinforcement. You have to focus on gross motor skills and controlled environment of free play. For exercise, use positive reinforcement, focus on the gross motor skills and control environment and free to play. of free to play. You have to use positive reinforcement. You have to focus on gross motor skills and control environment of free to play. Control environment of free to play. Of free play. And you have to use a control environment of free play for exercise. Use positive reinforcement. Focus on gross motor skills and control environment of free play. And finally, for physiological, you have learning to share and play together. Physiological, at that age, you're learning to share and play together. You develop teamwork and problem-solving skills for ages 0 to 6. For kids 6 to 10 years old, for psychology, you have a steady growth rate. For psychology, steady growth rate. You have fine motor skill development and improving hand-eye coordination for that age. For physiology, a steady growth rate, you have fine motor skill development and you have improved hand-eye, improving hand-eye coordination. Steady growth rate, fine motor skill development, and an improving hand-eye coordination. Now for exercise, balance improves. Exercise intensity for exercise, the balance improves. Exercise intensity can increase and build skill focus on fun and set clear expectations for exercise. The balance improves. Exercise intensity can increase, build skill, focus on fun, but build skill but focus on fun and set clear expectations. The balance improves, exercise intensity can increase, that build skill but focus on fun and set clear expectations. And for psychology, can work in groups well, can work for psychology. For psychology, you can work in groups together well. You can work in groups together. You can work in groups together well. You can manage conflicts and make new friends. Social comparison, positive encouragement, and focus on process goals. For psychology, you can work in groups together well. You can now work in groups together well. You can now work in groups together well. You can manage conflicts and make new friends. You have social and make new friends. You now have social comparisons, which is going to be from positive encouragement. Now you have social comparisons, which is positive encouragement. And now you focus on process goals. Now you focus on process goals, on process goals. Now from kids 11 to 19 years old, for physiology, puberty and growth spurts. For physiology, social comparisons, positive encouragement, and focus on process goals. Now for kids 11 to 19 years old, for physiology, puberty and growth spurts. The physical performance and coordination improvements, physical performance and coordination improvements more in girls. Puberty and growth spurts, you have physical performance and coordination improvements more in girls because they mature faster. Exercise, puberty and growth spurts, physical performance uh, and coordination improvements more in girls. Now, for exercise, you're going to have build fine motor and specialized skills. For exercise, you're going to build fine motor and specialized skills. Build fine motor and specialized skills. You're going to utilize progress tracking. Uh, you're going to utilize progress tracking and more challenging exercises and sports. Build fine motor and specialized skills. You're going to utilize progress tracking and more challenging exercises and sports. Utilize progress tracking and more challenging exercises and sports, and more challenging exercises and sports. Now, for exercises and sports. Now, for phys and sports. Now, for psychology, you're going to behave in their own best characters. For psychology, you're going to behave in their own best interest. Psychology behave in their own best interest. You're going to behave in their own best interest. You're going to discover personal identity, take a lot of risks, and socially conscious for psychology. Behave in their own best interest. Discover, behave in their own best interest. You're going to discovering the personal identity of yourself. Behave in their own best interest. Discovering personal identity. Take a lot of risks and socially conscious for psychology. Behave in their own best interest. Discovering personal identity, take a lot of risks and totally conscious, behave in their own best interest, discovering personal identity, take a lot of risks, and socially conscious. take a lot of risks, and socially conscious. Discovering. And for psychology, you're going to behave in their own best interests, discovering personal identity, take a lot of risks, and socially conscious. Now, the youth and socially conscious. Socially conscious. Now, the youth fitness assessments are going to be divided in aerobic capacity, body composition, flexibility, muscular endurance, and strength. Youth fitness assessments. The area of fitness is going to be aerobic capacity, body composition, flexibility, and muscular endurance and strength. You have to use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome for that assessment. You have to use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome of that assessment. For aerobic capacity, the performance assessment is going to be pacer test, 1 mile run, or the walk test for the aerobic capacity. The pacer test, the 1 mile run, or the walk test. For body composition assessment, you have the skin fold, bioelectrical impedance, or body mass index. Flexibility, you have the back saver seat and reach for the performance assessment, the back saver seat and reach, and the shoulder stretch. For muscular endurance, you have the curl up, the trunk lift 90-degree push up, and the modified pull up, and the flex arms hang for the muscular endurance and strength. And strength. For muscular endurance and strength, you're going to have a curl up, trunk lift, 90-degree push up, a modified pull up, and the flex arm hang. Modified pull up and the flexed arm hang. Now you have the curl up, the trunk lift 90-degree push up, the modified pull up, the flexed arm hang. You have to use you have to use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome of the assessment. You have to use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome of that assessment. Now, senior fitness of that assessment. Now, senior fitness is going to be for anyone that is 65 years of age and older. Use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome of that assessment. Period. Now, uh, period. Now, fitness. Period. Now, senior fitness. Senior fitness. Anyone who is 65 years of age and older. Senior fitness is going to be for anyone that is 65 years of age and older. Senior fitness is for anyone who is 65 and older. Exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Senior fitness is for anyone who is 65 and older. Exercise can uh, exercise can reduce the age at which we age at. Anyone who is 65 and older is going to be senior fitness. Exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Exercise helps. Uh, Exercise helps a senior population. Exercise helps a senior population maintain and in some instances increase their strength and balance, improves longevity and vitality and mental well-being. So it improves mental well-being elements of fitness training. So senior fitness is going to be youth fitness assessment. You have fitness aerobic capacity, body composition, flexibility, and muscular strength. Aerobic capacity like the pacer test, the 1 mile run, the walk test, body composition like the skin fold, the electrical impedance or BMI, the flexibility like the back saver sit and reach, shoulder stretch, and the muscular endurance and strength like the curl up, the trunk lift 90-degree push-ups, the modified pull-up, and the flex arm hang. The flex arm hang is going to be for youth fitness assessments. Use positive feedback and focus on the progress rather than the outcome of that assessment. Period. Senior fitness is going to be for anyone who is 65 and older. Senior fitness is going to be for anyone that is 65 and older. Senior fitness is going to be for anyone who is 65 and older. Exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Anyone who is 65 and older, exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Exercise can be youth fitness assessments, area fitness, aerobic capacity, body composition, flexibility, and muscular endurance and strength. Senior fitness is going to be use positive feedback and focus on the progress rather than the outcome of that assessment. Now, senior fitness is going to be for anyone who is 65 and older. Exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Exercise improves strength. Uh, Exercise helps a senior population maintain and, in some instances, increase their strength and balance, improves longevity and vitality, and mental well-being, improves mental well-being. So uh, exercise improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality. Improves mental well-being. Improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality. Improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality, and improves mental well-being. Elements of senior fitness training are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility, balance, and mental training. Cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. For senior fitness, anyone who is 65 years of age, or anyone who is 65 and older, anyone who is 65 and older, for anyone who is 65 and older, exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Exercise helps a senior population maintain and in some instances increase their strength and balance, improves longevity and vitality and mental well-being, improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality and mental well-being. And also mental well-being. Now, the elements of senior fitness training are going to be the elements of senior fitness training. The elements of senior fitness training are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility, balance, and mental training. The elements of senior fitness training. Cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. The five of them: cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. Now, contraindications during pregnancy. You have two types of contraindications during pregnancy: relative and absolute. Contraindications during pregnancy, you have you're going to have two types of contraindications during pregnancy: relative contraindications and absolute contraindications. Relative, you have severe anemia. Relative contraindications versus absolute contraindications. For relative contraindications, you're going to have severe anemia, morbid obesity, extremely underweight, poorly controlled chronic diseases like thyroid, high blood pressure, etc., orthopedic limitations, and maternal cardiac arrhythmias, which is going to be irregular beating of the heart. Absolute contraindications that last for a prolonged period of time and require surgery, sometimes going to be an incompetent cervix, vaginal bleeding, placenta previa after 26 weeks, premature labor, preeclampsia, uncontrolled diabetes, or other chronic disease. So we're going to be relative versus absolute contraindications. Remember that the elements of senior fitness are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness. Uh, the elements of senior fitness training are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. Cardiorespiratory fitness, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. Now that the contraindications during pregnancy are going to be relative versus absolute contraindications. You have relatives like severe anemia, relatives like severe anemia. You have severe anemia, morbid obesity. You have extremely underweight, poorly controlled chronic diseases like thyroid, high blood pressure, etc. Then you have orthopedic limitations. You have orthopedic limitations, and finally you have maternal cardiac arrhythmias, severe anemia, morbid obesity, extremely underweight, poorly controlled chronic diseases like thyroid, high blood pressure, and etc. Orthopedic limitations, and maternal cardiac arrhythmias and maternal cardiac arrhythmias. And for absolute contraindications, you're going to have incompetent cervix, vaginal bleeding, placenta previa after 26 weeks. Then you have premature labor. Then you're going to have premature labor, preeclampsia, and uncontrolled diabetes or other chronic disease. So contraindications during pregnancy. Relative versus absolute contraindications. For relative, you have severe anemia, morbid obesity, extremely underweight, poorly controlled chronic diseases like thyroid, high blood pressure, etc., orthopedic limitations, and maternal cardiac arrhythmias. And for absolute contraindications, you're going to have incompetent cervix, vaginal bleeding, placenta previa after 26 weeks, premature labor, preeclampsia, uncontrolled diabetes, or other chronic disease. Preeclampsia, uncontrolled diabetes, or other chronic disease, or other chronic disease, or other chronic disease, or other chronic disease. Now, finally, you have adaptive fitness. Tolerable diabetes or other chronic disease. Now, in here you have adaptive fitness, adaptive fitness, adaptive fitness. Working with anyone who may have a disability. Adaptive fitness is going to be a disability. Working with anyone who may have a disability is going to be adaptive fitness. Working with anyone who may have a disability, condition of the body or the mind that makes certain activities more challenging, more difficult for the individual who has that condition, suffering from that condition. Considerations are going to be considerations engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Start slowly and encourage the client to stay active. Keep activities enjoyable and include cardiovascular. Keep activities enjoyable and include cardiovascular, strength, and endurance activities similar to the general population. Similar to general population. So that's gonna be for adaptive fitness. Adaptive fitness. Working with anyone who may have a disability, which is going to be a condition of the body or the mind that makes certain activities more difficult for the individual who has that condition, for the individual suffering from that condition. Now, from that condition, considerations are going to be to engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Start slowly and encourage the client to stay active. Now you have to keep activity enjoyable and include cardiovascular, strength, and endurance activities similar to the general population. Considerations. Considerations is going to be engaging activities that are right for the client uh, and their abilities or goals. Start slowly and encourage the client to stay active, keep activity enjoyable, and include cardiovascular, strength, and endurance. Strength and endurance activities similar to the general population. Period. That's it, bro. Business and marketing then. Period. Okay, that was it for lifespan populations. Now we're gonna go over here at the workbook. Here is lifespan populations right here. Lifespan populations, chapter 17, lifespan populations. Idiot. Okay. Lifespan populations, lifespan populations. Chapter 17, lifespan populations. Name three ways to prevent an injury in youth clients. Three ways to prevent an injury in youth clients. Three ways to prevent an injury in youth clients. Always include a warm up and a cool down, ensuring proper instruction cues and forms at all times, and using proper training progression and using appropriate equipment and making sure the client knows how to use each piece correctly. There's going to be three ways to prevent injury in youth clients. Always include a warm up and a cool down. In general, that's always used to prevent injuries. Always include a warm up and a cool down, ensuring proper instruction cues and forms at all times, and finally, using proper training progression and using the appropriate equipment and making sure the client knows how to use each piece correctly. The client knows how to use each piece correctly and making sure the client knows how to use each piece correctly. Correctly. Now, for differences between youth and adults, children has less blood volume than adults. Blood volume during exercise is reduced due to sweating and salt electrolyte loss naturally. So this can make children more susceptible to dehydration. Children and youth have similar airways with more soft tissue than adults. Has smaller airways with more soft tissue than adults. This this physical limitation may limit the lung capacity and task training intensity possi- and task training intensity possible for young children. Children have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults. Children have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults. So they have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults. And children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight in adults. Has less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. Now, two aerobic cardiovascular assessment for youth kids are going to be the pacer test and 1 mile run and walk test. The pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test are going to be free. A cardiovascular assessment for youth children, the pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test. That's going to be two aerobic cardiovascular assessments for youth children. Flexibility, and muscular endurance and strength. We use positive feedback and focus on the progress rate and the outcome of that assessment. Period. So two aerobic cardiovascular assessments. If aerobic cardiovascular assessments for youth clients are going to be the pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test. Now, three client assessments that can be used with senior clients. Three client assessments that can be used with senior clients are going to be the 30-second chair stand, the back scratch test, and the 8 foot up and go, and then 2 minute step test and the arm call, the 30-second chair stand, the back scratch test, and the 8 foot up and go, and the 2 minute step test and arm call, the 2 minute step test and arm call is gonna be client assessments that can be used with senior clients: a 30-second chair stand, back scratch test, and 8-foot up and go, 2 minute steps, 2 minute step test, and the arm call. Now, free absolute contraindication for a pregnant client is going to be premature labor and preeclampsia, incompetent cervix and persistent vaginal bleeding, uncontrolled diabetes and placenta previa after 26 weeks gestation, and 6 relative contraindications for a pregnant client is going to be severe anemia and poorly controlled hypertension, extreme morbid obesity or extremely underweight, maternal cardiac arrhythmia, and orthopedic limitations. Active fitness wasn't here, bro. So 3 ways to prevent an injury in your clients: always ensure a warm-up and a cool-down, ensuring proper instructions, cues, and form at all times, and using proper training progression and using appropriate equipment, making sure the client knows how to use each piece correctly. Now, 4 differences between youths and adults. Children have less blood volume than adults. Blood volume during exercise is reduced due to sweating and salt electrolytes lost naturally. So this can make children more susceptible. This can make children more susceptible to dehydration. Now, children and youth have smaller airways with more soft tissue than adults. This physical limitation may limit the lung capacity and thus training intensity possible for younger children. For younger children. Now, children have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults, and children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to adults. And children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. Children have a faster children have a faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults. Children have less muscle mass and fat mass and skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. So lifespan populations. Name 3 ways to prevent an injury in youth clients. Always include a proper warm-up and cool-down, ensuring proper instructions and cues and form at all times. And 3 ways to prevent injury in youth clients is going to be always include a warm-up and a cool-down. Dude, my eyes. 3 ways to prevent injury in youth clients. There are 3 ways to prevent injury in youth clients. Always include a proper warm-up and cool-down, ensuring proper instruction cues uh, and form at all times, and using proper training progression and using proper training progression and using proper equipment and making sure the client knows how to use each piece. It knows how to use each piece correctly. Now, 4 differences correctly. Name four differences. Name 4 differences between youth and adults. Children have less blood volume than adults. Blood volume during exercise is reduced due to sweating and salt electrolyte loss naturally. So this can make children more susceptible to dehydration. Children and youth have smaller airways with more soft tissue than adults. So this can make children more susceptible to dehydration. Now, children and youth have smaller airways and more soft tissue than adults. This physical limitation may limit the lung capacity and thus training intensity possible for younger children. Children have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults, so children have faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults. And children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. They have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. than adults, and more skin surface area. And they have children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. In relation to weight, in relation to weight, in relation to weight than adults. In relation to weight adults. Two aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your children for your clients are going to be the pacer test and the 1 mile run and walk test. And free client assessment that can be used with your clients: 30-second chair stand, back scratch test, and air foot, face foot up and go, 2 minute step test, and arm curl. Absolute communication for clients: premature labor and preeclampsia, incompetent cervix and preterm vaginal bleeding, controlled diabetes and placenta previa to 26 weeks gestation, and relative contraindications for pregnant clients are going to be severe anemia and poorly controlled hypertension, extreme morbid obesity, and or extremely underweight, material cardiac arrhythmia, or and orthopedic limitations. Business and marketing then. Three ways to prevent injury in your clients always include a proper warm-up and cool-down, ensuring proper instruction cues and form at all times, and using proper training progression and using appropriate equipment and making sure that clients know how to use his speech correctly. For differences between youth and adults, children have less blood volume than adults. Blood volume during exercise is reduced due to sweating and salt electrolyte loss naturally, so this can make children more susceptible to dehydration. Children and youth have smaller airways with more soft tissue than adults. This physical limitation may limit the lung capacity and thus training intensity possible for younger children. For younger children, now children have a faster respiratory rates and heart rates than adults, and children have less muscle mass and fat mass and more skin surface area in relation to weight than adults. Now, two aerobic or free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for youth children. Free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your children. Free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your children's. Free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your clients. Free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your clients are going to be the pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test. That's going to be free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your clients. They're going to be the pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test, the free aerobic cardiovascular assessments for your clients. They're going to be the pacer test, the 1 mile run, and the walk test. And then you're going to have the free client assessments that can be used with senior clients. The free client assessments that can be used with senior clients are going to be the 30-second chair stand, the back crash test, and the 8 foot up and go, and the 2 minute step test and arm curl. And now the free absolute contraindications for a pregnant client are going to be the premature labor and preeclampsia. Free absolute contraindications for a pregnant client are going to be the free absolute contraindications for a pregnant client. These free absolute contraindications for a pregnant client, they are going to be a premature labor and preeclampsia, incompetent cervix and persistent vaginal bleeding, and uncontrolled diabetes and placenta previa after 26 weeks placenta previa after 26 weeks gestation. After 26 weeks gestation. Now, relative contraindications for a pregnant client, they're going to be severe anemia and poorly controlled hypertension. Then you have extreme morbid obesity or extremely underweight and maternal cardiac arrhythmia and orthopedic limitations. So the severe anemia and poorly controlled hypertension, extreme morbid obesity or extremely underweight, and maternal cardiac arrhythmia and orthopedic limitations. Period. That was it for the workbook. chapter 17, lifespan populations. Elements of senior fitness are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness. So use positive feedback and focus on the process rather than the outcome of the assessment. Senior fitness, anyone who's 65 and older, exercise can reduce the rate at which we age at. Exercise improves strength, balance, longevity, and vitality, improves mental well-being. Elements of senior well-being. Uh, elements of senior fitness. Elements of senior fitness are going to be the elements of senior fitness training are going to be cardiorespiratory fitness, uh, muscle strengthening, flexibility training, balance training, and mental training. In here, the contraindications during pregnancy. You're going to have relative contraindications. You're going to have severe anemia, morbid obesity, extremely underweight, poorly controlled chronic disease. You're going to have thyroid, high blood pressure, etc., orthopedic limitations, and maternal cardiac arrhythmias. Absolute contraindications are going to be incompetent cervix, vaginal bleeding, placenta previous to 26 weeks, premature labor, preeclampsia, uncontrollable diabetes, or other chronic disease. Yeah, other chronic disease. Period. Adaptive fitness. Adaptive fitness, working with anyone who may have a disability, condition of the body or the mind that makes certain activities more difficult for the individual suffering from that condition. For the individual suffering from that condition. From that condition. In here, now you're going to have considerations. Period. Period. Now in here, you're going to have considerations are going to be to engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities and goals. Considerations are going to be to engage in activities that are right for the client. Uh, Considerations are going to be to engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. The considerations are going to be to engage in activities. Considerations are going to be to engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Engage in activities that are right for the client and their abilities or goals. Start slowly and encourage the client to stay active. Keep activity enjoyable and include cardiovascular strength and endurance activities similar to the general population. To the general population. To the general population. Period. Okay, that's it, man. Now you're gonna go over business and marketing after that. Adaptive fitness considerations. Am I right? Let's put it full. Business and marketing after this. But first, I'm gonna go over the quiz. Chapter 16. Lifespan populations. Communicable disease preventions. Lifespan populations. Communicable disease preventions. Chapter 16, Lifespan populations. Communicable disease prevention. Fitness facilities can be a hotspot for germs and diseases. Fungi, bacteria, or viruses can spread. Uh, Common communicable diseases in fitness spaces, you have skin conditions or respiratory infections. You have skin conditions or respiratory infections. Minimize the spread of diseases in the workspace. Encourage clients to stay at home if they feel sick or if they have skin rash or infections. Ensure proper cleaning, sanitizing, or disinfecting protocols are done regularly. Fungi thrive in warm and moisture and can be spread if they encounter the skin. Encourage clients to always wear shoes in the gym. Minor cuts and scrapes should be covered well before training. So now, at what age may youth begin implementing? At what age may the youth begin implementing circuit training and strength exercises with light free weights and low intensity between 11 and 14 years old? That's when the youth may begin implementing circuit training and strength exercises with light free weights and low intensity between 11 to 14 years old. Approximately what percentage of adults over the age of 65 are living with at least one chronic health condition? What percentage of adults over the age of 65 are living with at least one chronic health condition? About 80% of adults over the age of 65 are living with at least one chronic health condition, 80%. What type of exercises is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults? Which type of exercise is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults? Resistance training is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults. Resistance training is a type of exercise recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults. To prevent osteoporosis in older adults, you must do resistance training. To prevent osteoporosis in older adults, you have to do resistance training. The exercise recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults is going to be resistance training. For senior populations, what does the back scratch fitness assessment measure? It's going to measure upper body flexibility. What is the general upper body flexibility? Does the back scratch fitness measure assessment? The back scratch fitness assessment measures upper body flexibility. Now, what is the general physical activity recommendation for pregnant women assuming no medical conditions are present? What is the general physical activity recommendation for pregnant women assuming no conditions are present? The general physical activity recommendation for pregnant women assuming no medical conditions are present are going to be 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercises and 3 days of strengthening exercise weekly. 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise and 3 days of strengthening exercise weekly. Which of the following is an absolute contraindication for a pregnant client? Premature labor is an absolute contraindication for a pregnant client. Premature labor is an absolute contraindication for pregnant client. Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes? Maintaining current health status. As a exercise program for a pregnant client should focus on maintaining current health status. Approximately what percentage of the world population has a condition that disables them? 15% of the world population has a condition that disables them. 15% of the world population has a condition that disables them. Which of the following is a psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise? The resting heart rate increases is a physiological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise. The resting heart rate increase. The resting heart rate increases a physiological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise. And which fitness assessment for senior populations measures the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet, 8 foot up and go? A fitness assessment for senior populations that measures the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet, the 8 foot up and go assessment. The 8 foot up and go assessment is going to be the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet is going to be a 8 foot up and go assessment. So that was the quiz for chapter 6. For chapter 17, then you have a business and marketing virtual training, testing emergency situations and scope of practice. And then you're going to go over the quizzes for all of this. And that's it, bro. Virtual training, safety in emergency situations, scope of practice. There you go, bro. Arteries and autoimmune disorder. Lifespan populations, communicable disease prevention. Uh, Lifespan populations, quiz 16. Communicable disease prevention. Fitness facilities can be a hotspot for germs and disease. Fungi, bacteria, or viruses can spread. Common communicable diseases in fitness spaces, skin conditions or respiratory infections. Minimize the spread of disease in the workspace. Encourage clients to stay at home if they feel sick or have a skin rash or infection. Or infection. Ensure proper cleaning. Ensure proper cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfection protocols are done regularly. Fungi thrive in warmth and moisture and can be spread if they encounter the skin. Proper cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfection protocols are done regularly. Uh, fungi, fungi thrive in the warmth and the moisture and can be spread if they encounter the skin. Fungi thrive in the warmth and the moisture and can be spread if they encounter the skin. Fungi thrive in the warmth and the moisture and can be spread if they encounter the skin. Encourage clients to always wear shoes in the gym, and minor cuts and scrapes should be covered well before training. Encourage clients to always wear shoes in the gym, and minor cuts and scrapes should be covered well before training. At what age may youth begin implementing circuit training and strength exercises with light free weights and low intensity? Between 11 to 14 years old, that's the age when the youth can begin implementing circuit training and strength exercises with light free weights and low intensity. That's going to be between 11 to 14 years old. Approximately what percentage of adults over the age of 65 are living with at least one chronic health condition? About 80% of adults over the age of 65 are living with at least one chronic health condition. 80% of adults. What type of exercise is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults? Which type of exercise? Which type of exercise is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults? Which type of exercise is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults? The type of exercise recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults is going to be resistance training. Resistance training is recommended to prevent osteoporosis in older adults. Resistance training. For senior populations, what does the back scratch fitness assessment measure? For senior populations, what does the back scratch fitness assessment measure? Upper body flexibility. The back scratch uh, the back scratch fitness assessment measures upper body flexibility. The back scratch fitness assessment measures upper body flexibility. Upper body flexibility. Now, what is the general physical activity recommendation for pregnant women? The general physical activity recommendation for pregnant women, assuming no medical conditions are present, is going to be 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise with 3 days of strengthening exercise weekly. With 3 days, 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise with 3 days of strengthening exercises weekly. Weekly. Now, which of the following is an absolute contraindication for pregnant women? An absolute contraindication for pregnant women is going to be an absolute contraindication for a pregnant client is going to be a premature labor. Absolute contraindication for pregnant client is going to be a premature labor. Premature labor as a as an absolute which of the following is an absolute contraindication for a pregnant client is going to be premature labor. Premature labor. Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes. Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes on maintaining current health status. Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes on maintaining current health status. Maintaining current health status. Now, approximately what percentage of the world's population has a condition that disables them? It's going to be premature labor. Premature labor. A soluble indication for a pregnant client is going to be premature labor. Premature labor. Uh, exercise Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes. Exercise programming for a pregnant client should focus on what fitness outcomes, on maintaining current health status, maintaining current health status, maintaining current health status. Uh, Now, approximately what percent of the world population has a condition that disables them? 15% of the world population has a condition that disables them. 15% of the world population has a condition that disables them. Which of the following is a psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise? A psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be the resting heart rate increases. That psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be the how they exercise is going to be the resting heart rate increases. The resting heart rate increases. The resting heart rate increases. And which fitness assessment for senior populations measures the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet? 8 foot up and go. 8 foot up and go. 8 foot up and go. The following is a psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be the resting heart rate increases. A physiological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be how they exercise is going to be the physiological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be resting heart rate increases. The psychological change that occurs in pregnant women, the psychological change that occurs in pregnant women that can affect how they exercise is going to be resting heart rate increases. Resting heart rate increases. Which fitness assessment for senior populations measures the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet, 8 foot up and go? For senior population, a fitness assessment that measures the amount of time needed for an individual to stand up from a seated position and walk 8 feet is going to be the 8 foot up and go. 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 And that's it, bro. 8 foot up and go. 8 foot up and go. Now you're gonna go over business and marketing and safety and emergency situations. That was it for this chapter. We had to learn a lot of freaking terms. Memory needs to rest, so I am done for today. The last one is going to be chapters 18 and 19, and that will be the last day. I'm considering doing it later today, but if it's not possible, then tomorrow, and then hopefully next week I'll take the final exam. We'll see. So thank you so much, guys. Let me see how long did we take. It's been like 3 hours. It's been like 3 hours basically. Uh, hours. It's been like 3 hours basically. Live. Yeah, exactly 3 hours. So thank you guys.